Welcome to the Quick Stop F1 podcast. My name is Nyasha and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. And today we have got a South Africa GP special. Yes, that is right. There's a lot of clamour, a lot of attention on South Africa at the moment as they finalise a deal with Liberty Media for a Grand Prix at Kyalami, which is kind of close to Johannesburg, the capital of South Africa. And I thought it'd be really cool to get some inside perspective. So we've got two parts of the podcast today. The first part is with a guy called Sudhir, who is an incredible journalist from South Africa who actually broke a story a few weeks ago, which I'll leave in the description below. And that essentially detailed, having spoken to people very close to the Grand Prix, to the promoters of the Grand Prix, in fact, about the South African Grand Prix, what kind of happened when Dominicali came over and what it would need to kind of take place. And then after that, I speak to Wame and Langa from the DRS Open podcast, where we basically talk South Africa in general, fans in South Africa, the growth of South African Formula 1 the growth of South African Formula 1 fans, as well as South African Twitter F1. So really cool show for you guys today. Before we get into all of that, though, make sure that you're liking the video, you're subscribing. If you're on a podcast area, that doesn't make sense. But if you're in a podcast place, make sure you're giving us a 5-star review on Spotify, 5-star review on Apple Music, and leaving a review. Our podcast views or listens are going up and up and up. That's only because people like you share us. We're completely independent. We fund ourselves. We do all of this ourselves. And it's only with your support that we're able to continue. So thank you so much. And smash that like button, smash subscribe, reviews, all of them things there. And let's get into this chat with Sudhir, which was really cool. I hope you like it. Oh, earlier, I would say maybe this month, maybe at the end of last month, there was an article that popped up on the internet which gave some really cool insight and inside info on the upcoming Grand Prix, potential Grand Prix in South Africa, potential Grand Prix in South Africa, Kyalami, which got everyone very excited. And I thought it'd be really good to talk to the journalist who wrote that about the things written in that article and the prospect of the Grand Prix in South Africa. So joining me right now is Sudhir Matai, author on the Double Apex website. I was going to say podcast. You have a podcast as well, though, right?
No, I don't. No,
you don't. That's my fault. I just think everyone has a podcast these days, me included. Clearly, Sudhir, how's it going? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate. I appreciate it. It's pretty cool.
No, look, it's super dope to have you on because I think I've wanted to talk to someone on the ground for a while now, and just I guess knowing who to contact. You know, being in London, my contacts in South African motorsport are very thin, almost paper thin. So it's cool to have you on because we'll get into what you wrote after, but I guess. Double Apex, like what is Double Apex? How did you start it? How did that come around?
Double Apex is an automotive portal. We cover news, reviews. We do a couple of videos. So you say, you asked to have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
So we do car reviews and occasional classic car run and that kind of stuff. And we have a clothing label. We have an automotive inspired clothing label. And I've been in the media game for about 20 years on the automotive side of things.
Nice.
And I've worked with some of South Africa's biggest automotive platforms in that time.
Nice.
And a few years ago, I decided I wanted to start this clothing label called Double Apex. And it did really well. We didn't have too many options in terms of what you could buy for petrol heads in SA. So I started this brand. It grew legs.
Nice.
And whatever money I was making from this venture, I was then investing in a race car. So I funded 2 seasons of racing an MX-5 in a classic car race series here in South Africa. So I built a little toy and I went racing.
Nice.
And at the time, I was working for a big print magazine in South Africa.
Yeah.
And print's taken such a knock in the last few years that I spun off into the digital space and started Double Apex as an editorial website.
Oh man, that's really cool. That's really cool. Had you always wanted to fund like a racing car, or was that just something that it kind of came, like the opportunity came about and you thought, oh, why not? Or was that like a lifelong dream of yours?
Absolutely lifelong dream, mate.
Yeah.
I've been watching and following Formula One and just about every motorsport since I was probably 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And you may know the history of South Africa, that if you weren't the right color, then opportunities didn't come your way.
Yeah.
And I ended up in that boat, by virtue of being the wrong color at the time.
Yeah.
And I had harbored this dream for the longest time, and just worked hard, and eventually, through years of working and saving and just the right opportunities, and ending up in the workplace in the automotive space, then put together this project. This was a bit ambitious initially,
Yeah.
and ended up racing. Yeah, I've raced a couple of seasons. I've done some national championship stuff at one stage. I've raced circuits. I've raced off-road, like a Dakar style series that we have in South
Wow.
Africa. I've been lucky, so a couple of people have trusted me with their race cars. I've raced 911 GT3 Cup car at one stage.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's
And then
awesome.
my own Mazda track car. Yeah.
Wow, that is really cool. Um, no, that sounds really cool, and that's like I think what people don't really appreciate with South Africa maybe is that there is such a large motorsport and like automotive culture over there. Like people love cars, like in general. So it's not as if F1 have just gone, okay, look, we're going to pick a random country and okay, let's go to South Africa. Like there really is like a love and passion for cars and motorsport.
Absolutely, but we've been getting cars in SA since the turn of the 20th century. We've had Model A's and Model T's, and multiple automotive manufacturers have set up shop here. So,
Yeah,
BMW and Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen and Ford have all had factories here, and a few more besides over the years. Our first Grand Prix was hosted in 1948, I think. This was, even
wow,
pre F1
yeah,
as a championship. The big names raced auto unions here in the
wow.
1940s, and then the race moved from the coast where it was in East London. It's still called the East London Grand Prix circuit because it hosted the Grand Prix.
Ah, yeah, nice.
Um, and, then the race ended up at Kailami. It found a
Yeah,
home at Kailami for many years. And then when sanctions were placed in South Africa through the 80s, Formula One eventually pulled out.
yeah.
Like many of the big companies from around the world all left. And then when apartheid was essentially outlawed, then we hosted two races. I think it was 93, 94 or 92, 93. It
Yeah.
was some combination of that. So we've hosted races, and we have a great motorsport history, and we've produced drivers. In this
Yes.
little country in the bottom end of Africa, we've got a Formula One world champion.
Yes, of course.
Jody lives
Jody
in
Scheckter.
England now.
Yeah.
He lives in England, and he's a farmer. I believe he makes really good cheeses at the moment. um,
Lovely.
his family have raced, his brother and his nephews. We've got guys currently on the world stage
Mm.
racing GT3 cars, DTM. We've got brothers in MotoGP.
Yes.
The Binder brothers are doing exceptionally well.
Mm.
A race winner in Brad. We've produced, probably a few hundred quality drivers over the years. So there's definitely a culture of motorsport and racing here that lends itself
Yes.
to an F1, maybe more so than some other countries in other parts of the world.
100%. Sorry, 100%. I could not agree with that more. Sorry. So, with there's been I think obviously like I said, the race I think ended in 93, right? And the last race was in 93, and we're in a situation now where this is not the first time that the idea of a race in South Africa has been floated since, right? I think we've heard whispers and rumors, and I think from my understanding they've tried to get it off the ground, and it just hasn't been able to for various reasons. But right now I think there's a good mix of a will on both sides to really make it happen. So from your understanding, um, how close, or I guess, yeah, how close potentially are we to having the South African Grand Prix back on the grid? Anyway, let's like forgetting about whether it'll be next year or 2024. Like, how close are we? I guess is a potential agreement between Liberty and the organisers of the South African Grand Prix.
So I think, as you said earlier on, the world right now is at its highest.
Yeah,
I think leaving Africa off a world championship is an obvious oversight. If you go to Australia
yeah,
and you're going, to South America, China, guys have been to Korea and India, and to skip, 57 countries in the middle of the world
yeah,
that represents, 1.2 billion people, then something's wrong.
yeah,
So, I think F1's realized this, and the new management, the Americans in charge of the commercial rights, Stefano Domenicali now, leading the charge, directing where they go and what they
yeah,
should be doing. Um, so from all the previous what if scenarios, I think this is the most promising. So Domenicali has been here recently to do a site inspection, as it were, but just to
yeah,
have a look at and some meetings here with the senior role players. We've got a promoter in SAGP, the
yeah,
company that was formed to host the race. We've got a facility in Kailami. We've got interest from private investors to host the race. And we've got Formula One going, hey, we'll talk to you guys. We're keen to host something in Africa. And wouldn't surprise me, I think everyone's really keen to get this off the ground. Um, 2023 may be a stretch.
yeah,
I'd love to, have a discussion with you in 6 months from now, going, our race is on the calendar.
yeah,
Um, you know, Perhaps 23, if something doesn't gel on next year's calendar, the way that Russia fell off
yeah,
this year, and there's this addition of Las Vegas next year, potentially China, which
yeah,
then really, the calendar is really full at the moment. Um, and the more likely scenario, I guess, is 2024.
mm,
But again, everyone's pulling in the same direction now. It's like, it's not the South African fans going, "We want to race, we want to race,"
yeah,
and Liberty is going like, "Oh, we're not coming to you guys because who's going to pay for this thing,
yeah,
and where will we host it? We're not just going to
exactly.
give you a race and then you don't have a facility for it."
Yeah.
Now I think we're all on the same page, and how quickly that page gets turned to the next is up to all those role players.
And I guess, what are the barriers to a South African Grand Prix happening? I guess let's talk regarding the track itself. I think there's been talk of it having to be upgraded to an A grade circuit. Is that correct?
Right, a level one
Level one
circuit.
circuit, yeah. So what does that mean?
So F1 tracks can only run on level one circuits, and Kyalami is approved to level two, so we can host World Endurance Championship (WEC). We can host international GT3 races, which we've done for the last 3 years. We've
Yeah.
had the season close of IGTC was here, the
Okay.
GT3 International Series, and the track itself, the facility is incredible. It's got the space needed, more so than
Yeah.
a Monaco.
Of course.
We,
Yeah.
the massive trucks can come in easily. And when they revamped the circuit a few years ago, they were cognizant of these facts,
Okay.
because we'd hosted those races in the 90s, and maybe there were a few issues that needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
And the new owners, when they revamped the circuit, they addressed a lot of those. So ease in and out the track for massive trucks is very simple. It's a direct line in now with an underpass. Used to be this very windy, convoluted road to
Nice.
get in to where it was, and that's made it a lot easier. Funnily enough, I used to work at Kailami.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
worked there for, but yeah, I did some motorsport promotion at the circuits. I used to go to work every day at Kailami,
Ah, nice.
driving in the access roads to get in. So I know them quite well. So
Nice.
Kailami needs a little bit of changing. I believe there's some runoff that needs to be expanded.
Yeah.
And Formula One's now using these very crash-friendly Tech Pro barriers.
Yes.
and there aren't enough of those around. And I guess if an F1 race was forthcoming, then the tech pro barriers would be bought and installed. That's
Yeah.
not a insurmountable task.
And I guess people might say, or I've heard, I guess that from a funding point of view, how is South Africa going to be able to fund the race, and I guess the entry fee, and I guess the costs of just hosting a race before you take into account revenue from ticket sales and merch and hospitality, drinks, whatever.
Yeah.
Is that part of the delay in getting the race together, or is that pretty much in hand?
The SAGP CEO and I had a discussion about this, and he says, they've got investors in place, private investors.
Okay.
National government doesn't come to the equation, so it's not a case of they're asking the SA government to pay to host a race.
Okay.
The funding will come from private sector, and in the form of a tourism levy. We plan to attract many foreign visitors with an event here, potentially on the premise that the South African rand against euro, dollar, pound is not extremely strong. So you can come here with not too many euros or pounds and have a blast.
I'm aware of that interest rate, and it's very favorable. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. You make it down to SA, mate, and you will be shocked. And I would say beer's on me, but when you come with pounds, the beer will all be on you.
Don't worry. I have friends and family who are very cognizant of that fact, and my pockets are always empty. But look, gladly so. So funding isn't an issue.
I don't think it's a stumbling block to this happening now. It's a case of all the parties just agreeing on the terms of how and when this is going to happen. I think everyone's keen for this to happen. It's
incredible, right?
That's fantastic news, man. Absolutely fantastic news. We have a massive Formula One following down here. We see all the races live. If you look at all the automotive websites, mine included, we all cover Formula One almost real time. We cover practice sessions, quali, race results. We gobble up F1 content. And the interesting thing about F1, I suppose like many places in the world, and perhaps the likes of Lewis's presence there has expanded the sport to a wider audience in the last, let's say, 10 odd years, 12 years. So from the last time the sport was here to now, I think the audience base has grown several fold to where it was 15, 20 years ago. So, to put it in simple terms, our population's 80% black. So, there's a very large number of non-white folks watch and follow Formula One very, very closely.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Like the last race, like I say, was under apartheid rule.
Just after.
Okay, just after. So, South Africa in 93 is a lot different than South Africa in 2023 or 2024, right?
Absolutely. 30 years later, we've got an emerging black middle class, people who were impoverished back then. And I'm not going to gloss over it because we still have impoverished folks in SA, but there's definitely a larger number of people who have been empowered in the last 30 years.
Of course. And that's the, I think that's the cool thing, right? That if there is a Grand Prix in Africa, that the audience who go to that race needs to be representative, I guess, of the people who live in that country, right?
It's a no-brainer, man.
And I think that's what. And I think in the article you were saying that potentially they were going to make sure that there were a portion of tickets that were available to local residents or South Africans at maybe a cheaper rate.
Yeah. So that's what the CEO of SAGP said to me,
Yeah.
that there'll be a set of tickets reserved at a lower value that you can only buy as a South African resident,
Yeah.
which is great. It means people can access the track and the event.
Nice.
With any Grand Prix, even Miami, you can buy a really cheap ticket that gets you into the facility to walk around, or you can go and sit upstairs at the pits and rub shoulders with CEOs and
Yeah.
managing directors, but it costs you,
And
10,000 pounds.
yeah, alarm in the leg. Yeah.
Exactly, 10,000 pounds. So we're going to have, also that sort of stacked system here. There'll be tickets affordable. I'm not going to say cheap, but affordable to a population, and tickets at the very, very high end for people who want to spend that kind of money.
Lovely stuff. Sorry, could you just restart your video again, please? Thank you. Is my video okay? Is my video cutting?
The whole time yours was fine.
Okay, cool. That's fine. So
going back a step to that, I said early on that Africa is so big and we don't have a race. What I'm really hoping happens is that we start here, and 57 countries. The US has 3 races scheduled for next year.
Yeah,
it's one country.
Yeah,
North America has 5. For half for a continent, we don't have one. So maybe this opens the door, and we host one now. And whether it's F1 or Liberty or even some motorsport organization in Nigeria goes, we should consider a race in Nigeria.
Yeah,
very wealthy country, a country that has oil reserves and a high number of very wealthy individuals. There's a second African race to be had. Then why not Nigeria? They hosted Formula E in Morocco.
Yeah, I was going to say Morocco. I think they threw their hat in as well for a race quite recently.
They hosted Formula E a while back, and then they also hosted World Touring Cars in Morocco. So it's not impossible. These are FIA events, taking place in African countries. So why isn't F1 here as well?
Yeah, and look, and that's the thing, right? Like, I guess that with the expansion of F1, look, they are saying essentially, Domenicali said that he wants 23 Monacos in the race in terms of glamour, right? If not racing spectacle, but glamour, right? He wants 23 glamorous races, almost like 23 Coachellas, if I was to put it into like music festival terms, like grand events where yes, there is an F1 race there, but there's entertainment off the track with the concerts and and the celebrities, and really pitching F1 as a glamour event held across the world.
I'm not sure if you're aware that we're hosting a Formula E round as well.
Yeah, isn't it next year?
It's I think it's the latter part of next year.
Cape Town.
Cape Town, correct? Yes, it's the city where I live. If you know the layout, Johannesburg is sort of inland.
Yeah, it's up.
High up.
Yeah, it's like in the middle.
So sort of centralish.
Yeah.
At very high altitude. It's 1,600 meters, Kailami. But Formula E is coming to the city where I live to race on the streets of Cape Town, and who knows, if we have an F1 race in at some point in the year, maybe 23, and then the guys see the second round on the streets of Cape Town, it's like maybe that's also a possibility. It's the doors just start to open quicker, and
for sure, and that would be awesome. Yeah. I think it's gonna be really interesting. I guess whichever one's first, I guess it's just going to be really interesting to see the reaction to it, the scenes there, the reception to it. I think if Kailami doesn't happen, then I'm definitely going to go to the Formula E race, because I feel like it's going to be an incredible spectacle. Cape Town's gorgeous.
Then you'll be in the city where I live, and then the beers are on me.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, fine. You know what? We'll do a round each. That's fine.
You're on. You're definitely on. The beers on. Yeah.
So what's Kailami like as a racetrack? I've read conflicting articles about what it would be like as a Formula One race. I've read one driver said that it's a great technical circuit, and the drivers are going to enjoy it, but they weren't sure whether uh, any real overtaking could happen. I've seen someone else say that there's a long straight, and therefore, I guess with DRS, it shouldn't be a problem. What do you imagine a Formula One race at Kyalami would look like?
So as far as overtaking goes,
Yeah.
there are plenty of circuits on the calendar that are providing no overtaking right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So I don't know how
100%.
someone can go, oh, we can't go there because there's no overtaking.
Yeah,
Kalama is very technical. I've driven loads of laps around there in various guises because the track has
yeah,
evolved, over
of
several
course.
guises over the years. In fact, the current circuit is anti-clockwise
Yes.
because the original circuit, the very fearsome Kyalami that appears in some very old games,
Yeah.
was a clockwise circuit.
Mm.
And then a business park encroached into the space, and then they got rid of half the circuit,
Oh.
and they had to flip it over and use the other side, the other piece of land,
Oh.
to extend it. And that I think became, a bit of a compromise as to what they built and what they created. So over the years, it's been changed, and the F1, the last time F1 ran there, I seem to recall, I think I was still at school, as the middle of my schooling, that the speed at Kyalami was the slowest average speed of any circuit in the season.
Okay.
And I seem to think that included Monaco.
Wow.
So for an F1 car, it was a real, it's a really, really technical circuit.
Yeah.
I've raced there in a different shape, and I've driven lots of road cars there, and it's a very, very tricky circuit to get on. You have to be, you got to be on it. Um, since then, they've really extended the front straight,
Okay.
really, really extended the front straight. So I can easily see that being a DRS pass because
Yeah.
it's a very long straight and a very, very slow left-hander at the bottom,
Right.
followed by a very slow right-hander. So you can get the undercuts, and then you can get the
Yeah.
overcuts, and
Okay.
then you got to switch over. So it could be quite interesting there. I think for the drivers, from a driving perspective, it could be quite interesting. Um, I don't think any of the current guys has driven the circuit as it is today.
Yeah.
Um, but the IGTC guys who raced here 2019, 20, and 21, they love the circuit. We say GT3 cars is a different kettle of fish.
Mm.
But loads of overtaking, plenty of opportunities, lots of elevation change, which makes things interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's 1,600 meters, 6,000 feet. Um, a different challenge for the
Yeah,
cars.
of course. I mean, we've seen in the past where there's altitude differences. They used to play into Red Bull's hands over Mercedes because of cooling issues and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's definitely a factor. And again, I guess depending on when the race is, we could be seeing a potentially quite hot race, or we could potentially see a wet race. It really
Right.
could be. It
So
could be like. Are there any
it's
ideas about when it could be?
no,
Yeah.
many years ago, Kalam used to be the season opener.
Oh,
So the guys
right.
would come over while it was winter in Europe,
Yeah.
start the season here in our summer, have the first race, and then get going.
Yeah.
Um, so you've got a couple of challenges here. If you host in summer, the weather's warm, which is great, and it's a
Yeah.
European winter. Um, there is the imminent threat of a thunderstorm every afternoon.
Yeah.
The climate just means the clouds build up. You can almost set your clock by it. The clouds roll in over Kyle Army, it buckets down, and it changes the complexion of the event completely. We could host a race in winter.
Yeah.
It's our winter right now. It's not horrendously cold by European standards. I could go outside in my t-shirt right now.
Yeah.
I'd feel a bit chilly, but there's no rain, there's no snow, there's no
Right.
clouds. So you got these bone dry circuit conditions, very cool temps,
Mm.
which make it pleasant even to be a spectator. If you're sitting in the sun
Yeah.
and it's 15 degrees Celsius, 12, 15, 18 degrees Celsius, it's pleasant. For most Europeans, that's a good summer's day,
Yeah.
you know.
100%. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I mean, I think either or, it's gonna be an incredible event. And I guess, what do you imagine? I guess for those who have with, maybe on the fence, or for those with a limited knowledge of South Africa, what would you say to someone who, who's maybe considering coming to South Africa for the Grand Prix, and I guess what their experience may be if they were to come over?
Most places in the world typically make the news when something bad happens.
Yeah,
There was a terrorist attack, there was a bomb blast, there was a
yeah,
tsunami, there's a nuclear fallout and whatever. And South Africa unfortunately falls, exactly in that trap that whenever
yeah,
something nasty happens here, we make the news, we make worldwide news. And we just like so many other places in the world, man. We've got lots of hardworking people who just want to go to work, provide for their families, send their kids to a nice school. And you come to SA and you see lots of hard, you see it, you see people getting up early, going to work to make not a lot of money to provide
mm,
for their families. And a lot of people who do make good money don't leave here because it's so beautiful.
yeah,
From Johannesburg, which is, as you point out, in the center at very high altitude, uh, and I'm in Johannesburg right now. I'm up for some work stuff, and I flew up here from Cape Town. It's under a 2-hour flight.
yeah,
I got here. It took me an hour 45. So you can go from Johannesburg to the coast, and the coast from here by flight is actually 45 minutes. The
yeah,
closest coast. You could be down at the coast. On a boat cruise looking at dolphins or whales in
yeah,
the ocean. And when you get to the closest coast to Johannesburg, you could drive there. And
yeah,
between Johannesburg and getting to the coast in Durban, my hometown, there are mountain passes and mountain ranges, and you can spend time in the mountains that look like parts of France and parts of Italy, just the mountains, the mountainous region,
yeah.
and in beautiful resorts. We've got 5-star resorts all over the place.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's a gorgeous
I,
place.
I've been told, and I've been to Europe loads of times for work, and on a typical day in Cape Town and sometimes in Durban and Johannesburg, I would see more supercars in South Africa than I would see on a
Yeah,
day in
yeah, yeah.
Copenhagen or a day in Milan or a
Oh,
day in Lisbon. So there's lots going on here, which I think people just don't realize.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if I guess if anywhere's got a perception of modern Africa, I guess it is South Africa. But I don't think that does it justice. Personally, I think it's every time I've gone to South Africa, I've been quite a few times. It's just, yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous country. Wherever you are, like it is
No,
gorgeous.
you say it, and you have pounds in your pocket, and all the Europeans I know, and all the Americans and all the foreigners, whether it's from Scandinavia to Italy, or the Germans love coming here. you
Mm,
know People come here, they always come back.
yeah, for
They
sure.
just come here and they love it, and they never come here and say, "Oh, I'm never going back to that place."
Yeah,
It's one of those s-hole countries that I'm never going to visit again. Come, and they come back and they tell their friends, and their friends come, and they just love it.
yeah.
um, as you say, it's just gets this poor rap in the news and on telly, and once you hear, you realize how nice it really is.
Yeah, no, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. And I guess, look, let's hope that it is. I'd love it for it to be next year. I think only for Lewis, and to have that, to have Lewis be able to get, he's in the last year of his contract next year. I do hope he resigns, but maybe he doesn't. But I think that would be really, really cool for Lewis to be in South Africa.
It would be great for him to race. He's driven here before. He's driven Kailami before. It was some Vodafone promo they did years ago.
Yeah.
So a few people have seen him and caught up with him, but he hasn't raced an F1 car here, and that would be really cool. I'd love to. I've seen him race in Europe. I was lucky enough to get to a few races, but I haven't seen him race here. It would be quite cool.
That would be
In which
awesome.
case, I think the beers will be on him and not you and
Yes,
me.
yes, 100%. I feel like the beers have got to be on Lewis. He's just got to have to hold that. So look, Sudhir, thank you for the chat. Before I go, what you're wearing? Can people buy that? Is that a purchasable?
It is a purchasable item. We only deliver in South Africa for now. We're
Okay.
trying to expand into Europe, but it's Double Apex brand. If you get a good look at it, it's like how you approach your race day.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I love it. I love it. That
So
is
we do a bunch of a bunch of merch, which is all on our shop. But people should just check out our website. We
Yeah.
we do lots of news and reviews. I have my own YouTube channel, so guys can check it out and give us a like and the usual. I believe you have to smash a like button.
Yeah, got to smash the like button and
It
subscribe.
doesn't work if you don't smash a like button.
Yeah, you can't just click it. You got to smash that.
No, you got to smash a like button. Otherwise, what's the point, really?
Exactly. But look, thank you so much. I think people are really going to enjoy the fact that it feels close. It feels like a matter of when and not if. And fingers and toes crossed that we can get, they can get it over the line, man. Because I think it'll be a moment in history. It's going to be incredible.
I cannot wait.
No. Well, look, thank you, Sudhir. I will contact. I'm actually in South Africa. I'm actually in Cape Town. Like December, end of December, beginning of January.
Oh, excellent stuff.
I'll hit you up and we'll go for those drinks, okay?
Absolutely. I am there.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, mate. I appreciate it.
Take care. Okay, now that was Sudhir from Double Apex. Make sure you take a look at his website, which I've left below, as well as his YouTube. And if you're in South Africa, why not grab one of those t-shirts? They look pretty cool. So next up, we've got Wame and Langer from the DRS Open podcast. And I love these two. They've got their own podcast. I absolutely love seeing black people in F1 making podcasts. More of it, more content creators. So take a look or take a listen to this interview coming up right now. But before that, like, subscribe, 5-star review, all of them things there. Here's the interview. Okay, so joining me for this part of the podcast, I've got someone whose podcast I've already been on, people that I interact with on Twitter and very much enjoy their company. I have got Wame and Langer from the DRS Open podcast. Hello! Welcome to
How's it going? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing over there in South Africa? How's it going?
It's cold as hell, really cold. I think the cold's gonna kill us, but we'll survive.
I feel like your cold is different to our cold. Like
it really is.
Yeah, I feel like how cold is it there now? I bet it's like what 7-8 degrees or something.
No, actually, it's 20 degrees on my side of the world.
Pardon?
How? It's 20. From what I can see.
Did you say 20 degrees?
Yes. Oh, well, that's what's showing on my laptop.
20 degrees.
Yeah,
you know
it's wild. It's wild.
White people are walking around topless
time.
in that weather. That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was in the UK. Yeah, no, not the first time, but I was going to watch some football, and I was in Manchester. And I arrived there. Obviously, it was bloody raining. I arrived there, had coats, like jeans, and dressed to the nines type thing. And I arrived, met some guys at the pub before the game. They were in like shorts and sandals. And I felt like an absolute donut that day. Well, I didn't feel like it because I was like, I'm cold. But everyone's just like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, it's cold. It was probably like 50.
That is hilarious.
Unreal.
You have to remember, like, because it's so cold here, sometimes it doesn't even have to be hot for them to get into summer wear. Like, as long as the sun is out, then we're going for it. Okay, shorts out, flip-flops, t-shirts. It's absolutely crazy. So look, DRS Open. I know I came on the show. Was it this year? Or was it
early this year?
Early this year,
beginning
right?
of this year.
Yeah, right. So, what made you guys want to start a podcast, and why each other?
Well, I'll answer this, Langer. Thank you very much.
Sure, go out.
The funny thing is we met on Twitter just like everyone else, and we used to interact a lot. Well, Langer said he followed me because I had Lewis on my header and my bio, and he's like, oh, well, I'm going to follow this girl. And then he started interacting with me, which is funny because I don't follow back Red Bull fans. And I followed him back, and we had a chat about Checo. I think I was being very hard on Checo, as I always am, because he's a bozo. That's not the point.
Oh man, I wish I had the gunshots. Bang!
And And he was telling me that no, Checo's gonna come along. I think it was even after Silverstone, yes, because he had a bozo moment in Silverstone last year. And I was like, no, he's gonna do okay, don't worry. And I'm like, no. But then we started interacting a lot. And then we just found ourselves always texting each other about like the sport. And then just one day last year during I think it was the second half of the season, and Lang was like, mate, why don't you start a podcast? I'm like, no, why don't you start one? Since you're also knowledgeable about the sports. And then he's like, no, let's start it together. And then we started recording a lot of demos, like so many demos. I think we have like 4 demos somewhere in our archives. And then we recorded the Jeddah episode, which was actually really amazing. We really enjoyed that. It was after Max's terrorism last year. And I was just like, you know what? We should put that out. And then that's how everything started.
Oh, that's cool. I'm not even going to lie to you. You guys invited me on, Langa. I didn't actually know who you supported. And then I was just on your podcast, sat there, and then you were just like, and Red Bull. I was like, wait, hang about. What kind of ambush is this? Could not believe it. It was so soon after Abu Dhabi as well. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yeah. Listen, I think, like Wame said, I don't think she missed a single beat. I think one thing about the pod, it was part of our thinking was like, wouldn't it be cool if we actually had like diametrically opposing views? We see, like, there are lots of times, I don't know, Wame, where I ask you the question, are we watching the same sport? Right. And but in a sincere sort of, where no one's like baiting anyone else. I actually remember that Silverstone weekend. And I remember that was the first time it struck me that like pure fandom, right, can like throw you like into opposite sides of the sphere. Yeah. Like one of my really, really good mates who supports Mercedes and supports Hamilton. So immediately after Max and Lewis's crash, the first thing I tweeted was racing incident, right? That was my instinct. And of course, then the race gets red flagged.
Yeah.
And they showed that thing, they must have showed it about 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
And the more I watched it, the more I watched the repeats, right? And I remember I tweeted out, I said, listen, I still believe it's a racing incident, but if there's a penalty that's going to be given here, it has to be Hamilton's, right? Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
like, I'm talking about my friends who are like, we talk about the sport all the time. We chill out together. We have like loads of beers together. And they were like apoplectic with me. And I was just like, but guys, like, first of all, I said it's a racing incident. That's what I think. But, like if, and that's a very big if, it will be Hamilton's. Like I was very confident that nothing's going to happen to Verstappen after that in terms of any penalties or whatever. Like just, but it also made me realize that like there's an intensity of emotion that people have. And you can make something of that if you take it and you channel it the right way. And I mean, Wame and I get along really, really well. I don't think you'd ever actually say that we have really opposing views on the pod. So yeah, I think, that Silverstone weekend was big in terms of pushing us forward to do something like this.
Yeah.
Where, we literally support different teams and probably the 2 most diametrically opposed teams in the sport. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're actually on the wrong side of history.
I might be. I can admit that.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, in 20, 25, 30 years time, we're all going to be looking back like, wow, Red Bull were really scummy, weren't they? And then you're just going to have to hold that. But that's fine. It's not about that.
I have no intention of like being a character defense for people who I don't know who are quite unlikable. Yeah.
So all he cares about is the wins and results. That's it. Everything else, leave that at the door. No, it's really cool. It's cool that you've got that dynamic. It's quite similar to how we started ours. Me and Tandy used to talk about F1 on Twitter, and then I was just like, "Do you want to start a podcast?" And then here we are later. She's on the podcast, drunk off lychee martinis. So it's lovely how life works out. So I actually recently saw you both had separate media duties in South Africa earlier this year. I think one of you was on TV. and one of you was on another. Was it TV or was it radio? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So I guess what was that like? I guess to be able to, because it must be nice to be able to kind of talk about Formula One on other platforms and to be able to kind of have those opportunities.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
for me,
yeah, go for it. Sorry.
ladies first, please. I was on radio, Langa was on TV, and for me it was not that nerve-wracking because I'm camera shy, if you guys can believe it. And I had to go through the interview in my native language, by the way. I had to not speak English, which was pretty cool because then I had to learn more about the sport in my own language. So it was nerve-wracking, but it was also pretty cool, and it was like for 15 minutes. So it was actually fun. After you've done it, you're just like, oh my God, I'm actually really good at what I say, like at what I do. I know myself.
Yes.
And then Langa was on TV.
Yeah, but I think, one of the things that we've often thought about and are being really deliberate about is how do you create access for people into the sport, right?
Yeah.
So part of what we want to do is to have conversations with fellow content creators and perhaps people in media, people who have been engineering. Like we've been really lucky already, I think, early on with like some of the guests that we've had.
Yeah.
But what Wame did that evening, speaking in Isisutu, because language is a huge barrier in our country, right?
Okay, yeah.
Language has a lot of barriers that it creates in terms of access. So when she was there speaking Isisutu, she immediately made the sport so much more accessible to a lot of people who socioeconomically may not have had any concept. Like, we might take things like Netflix for granted, but like our country is the type of country where like I'm guesstimating 80% of the nation doesn't have Netflix or access to a Netflix account. So when you can speak to them on national radio, speak to them in their language and be like, hey, you know what, I'm a woman, I'm creating content. It's like, oh, it can spark something. It can spark an inspiration for young people, for young Black people, particularly young Black girls. I think like what she did that week was pretty incredible.
No, it's super, super true. And it's one of those things, right, where I guess for me, and having heard you said that, I of course understand why it's important for us to do content in F1. I guess on a not superficial, but on a very on the fact that we're Black, right? And even though we're in different countries and different continents, there's that kind of shared experience thing, right? Of being Black and being an F1 fan and all of the things that we go through and being able to empathize with some of the things Lewis might go through as the Black person on the grid. But to hear it that there's more than just being Black, right? It's like I said, it's the language issue. And I take it for granted that you guys speak perfect English, but there's some people who obviously, for some people that's not possible. And so it must be in some ways a small barrier to entry on its own, just because you're listening to stuff and you're reading stuff that's, I guess, in a different language.
Yep. And I was also telling Langa the other day that you, Quick Stop as a whole, actually inspired us also to start this. Like, we had already started it before we came across you guys, but then when we saw you guys, how confident you guys were and how, biased you guys were, I was like, you know what, maybe I should actually rip Lewis and stop being diplomatic all the time. Trying to...
I love it.
I should push my agenda. I should push my agenda fully without being like, I should like push it without being shy or anything like that, because at the end of the day, I do really support him and him only. I mean, you can say Mercedes, but like, I'm a Lewis fan, so I'm a Mercedes fan.
Lewis first, Mercedes second, for sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if Lewis went to Haas tomorrow, I'm Gunther Steiner's biggest fan. I'm joking. I think that's really cool. Look, when we started, you know what? I'll be honest, when we started, I had the vision of us being a black podcast, but I wanted us to be as universally liked as possible. So in my mind, I was kind of holding back on the Lewis love and or bias, and I was kind of, if you go back to our early episodes, I was very much trying to be this, I don't know, like unbiased, slick, like, I guess, alternative to Sky or some of the bigger F1 podcasts. And then, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, if it weren't for Tandy, it probably would have stayed that way. But Tandy just doesn't give a fuck. So Tandy off the bat in the first episode was calling Vettel and Bottas a bum, and she was like saying all these things. And I remember at first being like, "Fucking hell, Tandy, you're gonna get us cancelled." And then one day I realized that, you know what, all you could do is be your authentic selves, whatever that is, in any situation, right? And that's what people will gravitate to. And I think people gravitate to anyone who are just their authentic selves. And some people are going to like that. Some people you can't make everyone happy. But that wasn't a deliberate thing. We basically stumbled across that. So it's nice that that got taken on. So you guys are in South Africa. You're on the ground. F1 has increased in popularity everywhere, right? The sport is growing. Like, it's, every country that they go to, the races are sold out. They're increasing capacity, record capacities in every race, everywhere they go. Are you guys feeling the same in South Africa?
Yep. Everyone on. I saw on, how we've always, like, when I started Diff on Twitter, it was just me and like everyone from London, people internationally, like there was just very few of us in South Africa. And then last year, as you're watching the races, you just kept on seeing more South African individuals get into it. Some people say "s," like some people just don't even know what they're saying. But then it's just nice to see a lot of people talking about it. I mean, it angers me when I see them just saying, "Oh no, Max is better than Lewis," and I'm like, "Please shut up." But also I'm like, "Oh my god, it's reaching them," So I think it is going to, like, it is reaching South Africa, and it actually does have a market here, because I'm always seeing how excited people are. People you wouldn't even think would go to like the race always are like, "Oh my god, Kalani needs to happen. We need to be there with our girlfriends." And I'm like, "Oh my god, can you guys please relax? We need to, like, the sports fans need to be there first, and then we'll go there after."
Look at you gatekeeping already.
I was about to say,
look at you. Unbelievable. Oh my god.
Next thing you know, you're going to be telling like people to get off Martin Brandel's grip.
That's
basically
like,
where we're going.
These guys don't even know who do you know what I mean? Who I am? Should be walking around the circuit like, do you guys even know who I am? Like, unbelievable.
You guys are saying this like gatekeeping is bad. Sometimes gatekeeping isn't bad.
Look,
that's a fair point.
That is, I'm not gonna comment on that. Langer, in your point of view, where do you see this going for South Africa? I guess, like, for me, like I look at it with the point of view that, I guess, really in terms of F1, it's definitely, I would say South Africa probably has like the leading, even just like motorsport and car appreciation culture in Africa. It feels like there's a really big market there for F1 to be able to tap into if they're able to do it right.
No, absolutely. And I think a couple of weeks ago, we were really lucky to have a conversation with Kriya Gangia. She's a local media personality, petrol head, travel influencer, like jack of all trades. But, she gave us a lot of insights about the scope for development of motorsport more broadly, right, in South Africa. And, as she was chatting to us, FIA's put in a huge amount of investment into driver development, right? So we've got a couple of guys, Brad Binders in MotoGP, but there are a couple of other guys who are up and coming, particularly on two wheels, right? There's a pretty there's a unique market for I don't know how to frame it, but like sort of non-conventional motorsport stuff. Guys are going out and doing their wheelies, and I've lost the English, but there's a huge market, and in a way that I'm not sure is really happening in the rest of the world. Like if you go down to Cape Town, some of the official and unofficial events that are happening there are pretty extraordinary. So I think it's only going to grow. We've followed a similar trend in terms of how Formula One has grown in popularity in of itself. But there's so much more about the motorsport, and again, another one of our guests who I'm thinking about beef to, who is a design engineer at McLaren, right? McLaren Automotive. And if you just think about open people's eyes to the range of possibilities within motorsport, like part of my favorite part of our conversation was when she kept telling us about crash testing. I think that's so cool, right? And I learned a lot from her in that conversation, and it just got me thinking that like we need to create the environment where people can see ways into it. Or be a content creator, right? Or be that engineer, or you don't always have to be the pilot in the cockpit. Not everyone is Lewis Hamilton. Some people can be James Allison, right? Yeah,
that's a really good point. Really good point, because it's got the ability to really influence and open people's eyes up to a career which could serve them well at home, but it could serve them well anywhere in the world. Really, engineering essentially, and anything to do with kind of like motorsports and so forth. So that's a really good point. And I guess you talk about unconventional. When I'm just going to be straight up honest. Like South African F1 Twitter is my favorite part of Twitter, but hands down, I absolutely am in love with it. You guys are so funny, so passionate, and there's actually, I wouldn't say it's like the largest community on Twitter, but you guys make your presence felt. And it's from a range of things. You've got people who do spaces, which are really informative and really funny, and then you've got people who just got the most incredible jokes and whatever. And there's always that support for all drivers, to be honest, for especially like Max and Lewis, mostly Lewis, of course. I guess how important is that community? I know you guys touched on it earlier, but how important has that community been? I guess in the growth of F1, because it does seem as well that people, from what I can see anyway, people kind of look into the stuff that, because you guys obviously have, as much as people might not believe us, we have lives outside of F1, and we have friends and interests outside of F1. But people kind of look at all of these interactions that we have daily with each other, and they probably think like, oh, what's going on over there? That seems really fun, and it seems to kind of like snowball effect. People join in, and I guess how important is has Twitter been for the growth of like the South African, community fan base on F1?
I think Twitter as a whole is actually really good for the sports. The FIA needs to pay us, but that's not the point.
Look, yes. No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I actually saw a report. I'm not actually going to get pissed off. They released a report just after Abu Dhabi, right? And they were like, F1 is like the most talked about sport on Twitter. I think it's like whatever, like 160 billion whatever impressions
and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I was like, I've contributed to that, okay? But I've put in work for some of those impressions, okay? Yeah. I need a check. We all need checks. You think these memes and these tweets should not be free, okay? And this sport is selling that. They're selling all of this information. They're like, hey, look how popular this sport is. Come and advertise with us.
And it's not going to dent the bank account. That's the thing. Also, it's not going to dent anything.
I'm looking under my beer. I'm looking. I can't find it. I don't know where it is. It's under my pocket. But look, that's neither here nor there. Thank you for angering me. But carry on. Yeah, like it does seem like you guys do are able. sharing of all your stuff seems to have helped you guys grow as a community.
Yeah, like Twitter has helped me enjoy the sport more than anything. I think the Twitter community helps us go through a lot of things. Like after Abu Dhabi, I was planning on deactivating, and then my Twitter community, like everyone on Twitter, was just helping us, like helping me go through everything. So I think the South African F1 Twitter community is also growing, because I was told by a few mutuals that whenever they don't know what's happening in F1, they just go through my timeline, and then they'll be up to date. I was like, "Ooh, that's cool, but you guys need to pay me now because I'm not doing this for free." And then
Yes.
and then others were just like, they recommend our pages. Like if there's someone who wants to get into the sport, they just recommend my page most of the time. And then they recommend, like now because we started like our own DRS Open page, they recommend that page for the times, everything. And I'm just like, well, this actually is a growing community, and I really enjoy it because they also interact with us. And South Africans also love a good party. So I think they've made Sundays like, and you know, a party type of thing. Because one thing about South Africans, they will drink and they will have a good time. And that's what they've made Sundays for. And I actually really like that. So I know that Thailand is actually going to be a vibe if they don't make a public holiday like they did in the World Cup. Then they would have failed us, because we are fighting hard for Thailand to come.
Oh God, let me tell you, what's hilarious about Kailami is that I'm seeing the influence of South African Twitter. I'm seeing people who live in the arse end of nowhere. Like, I've got to go to Kailami. We're all going to be there. We're all going to go to Kailami. Langer, what would Kailami mean, I guess, to South Africa? And I guess people who listen to this podcast might be wondering, I guess, why is it a big deal for us to talk about a race in South Africa? I guess, you know, a race in South Africa is the same as a race anywhere else in the world, maybe. I mean, if they are, they probably don't know us that well. But I guess what is special about F1 returning to South Africa after 20 years, and I guess, what would it mean to South Africans themselves to have a global event like that in the country again?
Yeah, you think about the gatekeeping conversations that we had when Las Vegas was announced, right?
Yeah.
How, oh my goodness, how can America have 3 races and 2 in Italy and, you know, possibly 2 in China coming up in the next couple of years? I think the FIA has recognized that its credibility, which is in tatters more generally. I say the FIA, maybe I should be saying Liberty Media, to be fair. Recognize that the legitimacy of a world championship necessarily means you've got to go around the world, right? So that's the first thing. So you have to have a race in Africa. Or you know, think about when in 2020, the COVID season and the concerns that they had about, was it going to be a full-on world championship? At the time, we thought we were only going to be able to race in Europe.
Yeah.
And luckily, you know, other races were able to happen. So it makes the concept of a world championship legitimate. And I think for us, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we've had 1 or 2 false dawns. We've hosted the Rugby World Cup, hosted the Cricket World Cup. Most recently, the Football World Cup in 2010 had a lot of promise about what it was going to bring for the country and new opportunities. We've got a whole lot of white elephant stadiums right now. Some of those stadiums that they've built in like Mbombela, make absolutely no sense. So I think people would be a little bit more cautious, like I'm talking on the ground now, because we've kind of seen a couple of false dawns with these big events. Nevertheless, I don't think anyone would deny the power of like how galvanizing it would be to have the sport here, and how galvanizing it would be for us, you know, to have, you know, let's call it 15 of the world's best drivers, right? A couple of them are definitely not the 20 best drivers in the world. And to
name names.
Name drop. You should be thankful to that TV. He gave you a championship.
I was going to say, I'm checking his bank account. because the money that should be coming to us, maybe it's going there.
Alex Albon. Anyway. So the power will be incredible, and if we can come back continuously, I think that's something which is also really interesting. Again, the culture around it, people walking up and down the paddock, seeing the opportunities, seeing what people do, is wide. I think the repeated nature of it, that's really what it's going to do.
Yes.
And I mean, we've not had a race post-democracy. The last, South African Grand Prix, if you talk to anyone of an older sort of age, whatever, is riddled with controversy. Whether it was guys who were coming here in the 80s, and then the drivers, they were chilling at a hotel in Hyde Park, debating whether or not they should race, right? That's the last image that a lot of people have about the South African Grand Prix. And so I think it would be so watershed to show them, okay, listen, we're not perfect. We're far from perfect. There's a lot of things that have gone wrong, but this is a sign of like an opportunity to go forward and to propel the country forward. I think that's what it would mean for people. It'll be pretty amazing.
The only thing that would disadvantage us is load shedding. I think that would just
Let's talk about this. No, because this is I look at you guys' Twitter in absolute, and look, actually, you know what? Before I say anything, I'm from Zimbabwe, okay? So I know about electricity getting cut off. Like that is like, I'm aware. But you guys, like, I see you guys talk about the electricity going off multiple times a day. Like,
like today it's gonna go 3 times.
Why? Just explain for the people on the podcast, on the listeners, what is load shedding and why may that be an issue if you're trying to run a Grand Prix?
Well,
I think nature can explain this. I can't. Like, I don't even understand what load shedding is to that. I'm just like, why do you have to suffer without electricity?
Yeah.
Well, what I would say for like global audiences, so load shedding is just rolling blackouts. But if you want to understand its potential effects, Monaco 2022, right? So what happened in Monaco? It rained. The rain got into the city's infrastructure type thing, and that's why we had rolling starts, because they can't get the lights to go on, right? They can't guarantee that when it's lights out and away we go, the lights are actually going to turn on in the first place. So like, you end up with rolling starts. Listen, they'll obviously make contingencies.
That's going to be a generator.
They did during the Rugby World Cup. They didn't during the Rugby World Cup. There's a video well documented on Twitter where load shedding hit during a live rugby match, and everyone was like, "Whoa, load shedding! Do you think that can happen?" That would embarrass me.
There's a mass, I'll actually send you the video. A massive local rugby cup competition. Rugby match is 80 minutes. It's tight as hell, right? Yeah. It's less than 5 points the difference in the game. We're going into, I guess, what they call it, injury time in football. Really? And the stadium lights went off. Literally, it's the most embarrassing. It happened about a month ago. It's actually the most embarrassing thing. And yeah,
and look, you would think that obviously if they're agreeing to it, that, like you say, contingencies would be made, and we would hope or expect that wouldn't be an issue. God, imagine if that was. But I guess,
yeah, it's not going to be a night race.
Let's say it's definitely not. Definitely not going to be a night race. Look, I've got to ask a question. I've been to South Africa a fair amount, but obviously I don't live there. I've seen a lot of things said about South Africa in the wake of potential race being there, right? So let's just go through a couple of the stereotypes that maybe people have about South Africa, and I guess its ability to hold a race. So, for example, we've got like let's say just the ignorant white person, it's in Africa. The South Africa, all South Africans live in huts, and I don't even know what is the track going to be made out of dirt, X, Y, Z. Let's just dispel that myth. Because South Africa's gorgeous.
Listen. And again, I'll share this with you on Twitter. I'm on a social media sabbatical at the moment, so when I come back in a couple of months,
I need that.
Like we've had like hippos literally running around in fourways in Sandton. We've had multiple.
I was going to say, hang on, this.
We've had multiple breaches of like Kruger National Park where there's literally lions, sort of running around the N12. If you are the type of person who is scared that this might happen to you, please don't come. Like honestly, like just don't come. Like it's fine. We'll get all the brave warriors
right?
who are willing to brave it out in the safari, to come to South Africa, and like we'll be okay without it.
I love that gatekeeping.
This one time, my cousin went to America, right? North America, and one of the people, they asked her if like they breathe oxygen in Africa, and I was like, "Are you serious?
They breathe oxygen?"
Yeah, yes, like the oxygen is like in Africa, and I was like, "What?" So, guys, we have oxygen. We have houses. Like we don't use a community computer. Everyone has Wi-Fi. Everyone has their own phone.
Yeah.
Meals don't cost like $6 per person.
So can I get $1 Uber? Is that possible?
Absolutely
no.
Absolutely not.
Life was pretty expensive here. I mean, we just said we don't have electricity. That we don't have. Like, it's a privilege to have electricity. Actually, we have to have a generator, which we do. So don't worry if the power goes off. We have generators. Africa isn't a jungle. First of all, it's not like, even if land existed, we have animal beaches and Kruger National Park beaches. It's not a jungle. You won't just be chilling watching Hamilton. On the flying lap. And then
Canada had those things. Canada, what were those? What are those hogs?
Oh, the one that Latifi ran over.
You will not have that at Kailami. Like there are no animals at the racetrack. Like it's not gonna happen.
You won't be chilling having dinner and then a lion. No, there's no lions here. I don't even think I know the last time I saw a lion except on TV, of course. But yeah, and meals and food and like transport is a bit pricey. I think for us more than anything, but it is still going to be pricey. You're not going to come here and pay less than 100 rand for two people unless you go to like Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yes, we have that. Yes, you're going to pay less than 100 rand for two people. But other than that, it's just that. But one thing for sure is that you will drink when you're here. South Africans drink a lot more than. I think it's a problem, but like let's not get to that. And before they come for me,
I'll do my best impression. I've got my beer here.
Kwame is keeping the integrity of this entire episode on her shoulders. Because, wow.
I'm not trying to make a senior citizen, jokes. I'll just keep it moving.
Yes, please.
Bam. I mean, come on.
Anyways. South Africa is actually a really nice place. You guys will have fun. There's not going to be any of the nonsense that you read on the internet. I think we can pretend to have a good weekend. We can pretend to have 3 good days and then go back to our problems like the next Monday. But it is going to be really fun.
Yeah, and I think that's it, right? Every country has their problems, right? Like, look, let's look at America. Let's look what's happening in America right now, right? And you can't, there's no country on that calendar which is perfect or which doesn't have issues infrastructurally, socioeconomically, whatever, right? Like politically. So I think for me, it's about South Africa getting to showcase like it did with the World Cup, I guess, which was, people had an issue with the Vuvuzelas and whatever, but that's on them. I think it was an awesome advert for the country South Africa. I love South Africa. I think it's a gorgeous country. The people are lovely. The views are incredible. Like it is beautiful. And people know how to party there. Like if you want to party, you will not find any shortage. And respectfully, the women are gorgeous. So, like, what more could you want? What more could you want? I can't talk for the men, unfortunately, but the women are incredible.
we don't have a great reputation right now. So I was going to say, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Look, Zimbabweans are the same. Look, it's fine. Look, it's fine. Look, I'd rather be on my end of the stick, to be honest. Like, that's fine. If I have to be an ugly man, but with beautiful women, I'm fine. I'm ugly.
Nyasha, you're ugly. Okay.
Oh no! Only beautiful women to choose from.
What about us?
You'll survive.
What about us?
Don't worry, you'll survive. It's fine. It's okay. Don't worry. Beauty's only skin. Beauty's more than what's on the face. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside people's personalities. So, and I guess, are you guys gonna want to go to the? You gonna go to the Wembley? You gonna try? What I did hear is that they're gonna make because one of the things that I think people worried about was obviously affordability. So, but I think they're making tickets available locally for local people at like South Africans at like a reasonable price. So I guess you guys looking forward to going if it is announced.
Let me correct that. As long as someone hasn't said that officially, can you please just take that with like a grain of salt? Because South Africans like selling each other dreams. As long as the official website hasn't said that we're going to make tickets reasonable for South Africans, let's just all budget around, normal F1 tickets. And I think, am I going to go? Of course I'm going to go. I mean, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I think I'm going to sell my mom's car. My mom's car. Or just, I was saying that we should all open a GoFundMe account, right? And then we all donate. And then, and then me and all my international mutuals, we book one Airbnb, a huge Airbnb, right?
Right, yeah.
And we all sleep in like that place. And the food, don't worry, like that those Americans said, we can get Kentucky the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And we will be jealous, but we will be fed. We will be fed. And it's very easy to get alcohol here. Like you don't need to have like expensive alcohol. Just get shots, just get drunk, and you will get drunk.
That's fine.
That can happen.
As long as
I definitely wouldn't miss it for the world.
As long as I've got Bry and beer, that's all I need. I don't need anything else like at all. Bry, beer, barbecue, and sunscreen. Yes, last time I went, I was on my Hotep shit. Like black people don't need sunscreen, and I got the biggest heat rash in the world. I got such a heat rash. I can't even describe. You ever had a heat rash before?
No, but yeah,
that shit will shame you into sunscreen. Let me tell you. So yeah, look, guys, that is enough from me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would want to talk about. Oh yeah, sorry, quickly, Langer. I know you're a Max Verstappen fan, so maybe I don't know if this is suitable, but. How important is Lewis? I guess Lewis being in South Africa next year, potentially if it does happen next year, would be a huge thing. He's always said he wanted it, and obviously he always talks quite glowingly about South Africa, and especially when he met Nelson Mandela. But why are you laughing?
That joke would die.
He met Nelly D. Like
he thinks about him all the time.
Every day.
Oh my
You're
God.
laughing too hard for something about a Lewis fan.
Let Lewis. He does think about him every day. Let him join. Between posting Roscoe Instagram things, he's just thinking,
Have you seen like the Spirit of Madiba memes that come up like anytime like Hamilton's ops might be doing like reasonably okay? I think it was after Canada. That was crazy.
Look,
some good stuff.
Sometimes he's not smiting the right people. He's smiting Checo and he's smiting Leclerc, but it's like you need to switch that. You need to get Verstappen. Like that's where it needs to go.
Let me tell you something. Nyasha, do you know how I always predict like Leclerc not winning, right? I'm starting to bang Juju for Max. If Mandela won't come through for me, I will start doing it personally. I'm the woman for that job. Max is going to start having bad luck out of me.
You know what? Yeah.
And no one will be ready for it.
I tell you this all the time. You're in for a lot of pain. Like
I'm not gonna lie to you. I prayed for Max's downfall, and it doesn't need to be happening. I don't know if my prayer is not being heard. I don't know if it's working, but the prayers have run out.
Why are you praying? Why don't you just use black magic for black people? Why can't we just use that? Just
you know what? That's true.
You know?
I'm trying to use a white person's magic. That's a problem. They're not going to smite their own. No. I guess is Lewis important? Not important, but I guess having Lewis there a good, I guess, gateway as it is. I guess in America they've got him in a way that they know him culturally, and you know they kind of gravitate towards him there. Is that something similar in South Africa? Or, to be fair, I do see a lot of Red Bull Verstappen fans from South Africa as well. So, is it as pronounced in South Africa, or is it just not as pronounced?
I think he is. I've seen with the people that actually root for Lewis and everything else. I've seen how Lewis is important to them. Like I always say that it's hard to be a neutral Formula One fan, and you're obviously going to gravitate to your fave. And I've seen people just watching for the first time and being like, oh my God, Lewis is the one, you know. And not just for that, I think for the cast and for black kids. I watched Baku last year, which was the worst race I could have watched with my nieces and nephews. But I watched Baku last year with my nieces and nephews, and I can tell you to this day, they always have Lewis on the statuses, like status posts. And I'll just be on WhatsApp or on Instagram and I'll just see them sharing all of Lewis's posts. And I'm like, you know what, I get that. My niece once said to me that she might want to join F1, not the driving and everything, but like the paddock and just being an engineer because of Lewis. And I'm like, well, me too. I think the biggest part of why I love the sport is because of him. That's why when nice things that happen to him, I just thought like my love for the sport kind of just like wavers a bit. But yeah, I really do believe that Lewis is a huge part of why South Africans want the Grand Prix to come this side. I mean, just to see him here and being embraced by a lot of black people. I don't think he gets to see that on track where he like looks at the stands and he sees a lot of black people. Here he will get to see that, you know, and he'll be cheered on. And even the Red Bull fans that do cheer for Max, I can tell you right now that sometimes just fans, South Africans have this thing of like hating on just the people that are successful just for fans. So some people root for Max because they just feel like it's gonna anger your normal F1 fans. So when Lewis does come here, you see a lot of people rooting for him. Every single black person, whether they support Red Bull or they support Mercedes, they'll just be rooting for Lewis. And I think he just needs to see that as well. He's been in the sport for a long time and he hasn't gotten that thing where he just looks at the grandstands, he looks at the paddock, and there's just a lot of black people. He will get to have that here. And I think that's really important.
That's sick.
Yeah. No, I'm a big tennis fan, right? And you know, I support Rafael Nadal, and I've tweeted this on more than one occasion this year, which is that so for people who don't know, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, and Novak Djokovic going into this year had 20 Grand Slams each, the most of any man on the ATP tour. And then Nadal won his 21st at Australia, 22nd at the French Open a few weeks ago. And what I saw this year, because he's also really injury prone, besides his older age in the tennis perspective, is an incredible outpouring of love. Like Rafa Nadal, for those who might remember, he used to be this weird kid who had like messy hair, wore 3/4 pants and like a sleeveless top. Like there's no style to him. He's faced allegations of doping since pretty much I can remember. Since he hit this, people were just like, there's no way this kid can do this, you know, he must be doping. And those allegations, some people still have them today, up until today when he won the French Open. But on the whole, there's been an incredible outpouring of love for him. And I'm so glad that he's got to see this whilst he's still in the game and he's appreciated at his peak. I wish the same for Hamilton, because what he's done for the sport is it's something that's completely intangible. And again, coming to South Africa, Kailami, he will get that. Trust me. Like, when we have like rugby matches and stuff, like these things we have called Equidra Squad. When South Africa won the Rugby World Cup in 2019, It was insane. I anticipate we'll have a lot of that sort of thing at Kailami, and I want him to be appreciated whilst he's in the sport. Like it really sucks when you've got, when we remember people after the fact, and oh my gosh, he was so great. And, often, in its most morbid sense, it's often posthumously, but let someone who's doing it, who has an agenda and has an ability to inspire, what Wame is talking about, right? The significance of a preeminent Black driver racing in Formula One in South Africa. You can't underestimate how important that is.
It's fucking huge. Like it's
crazy.
Like it's fucking huge. Like let's make no bones about it. Like it really is a massive moment in history. And I think, look, we saw how the reception that he got in Interlagos, which, we've been going to Interlagos for every year in his career, and he's always got love in Brazil. But obviously last season, and I think with this new influx of fans as well, it went up a level from anything we've ever seen. I think for any driver not at their home race, right? I thought it was just some of the most incredible shit. And I guess coupled with the incredible drive that he had, South Africa is just going to be an absolute another level on top of that. And if you think about that and how crazy that's going to be, I feel really happy for him, really emotional for him, because like I say, he's been racing in the sport for a long time now, and he deserves, like you say, Wami, to see that and to have that love, and like I say, Langa, to have that appreciation and to feel that. Look, and last season potentially could be his last one. I don't think it will be, but his contract runs out at the end of next year, so it would be really nice for him if Kailami does get confirmed for next year, and two, if God forbid, oh my God, if it is his last season, then hopefully he does get that. But look, guys, thank you so much for this chat. I really appreciate it, and I want you guys to know that it's really cool seeing you guys, what you do. I'm really proud of you. I hope you guys keep at it, carry on, and thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
I hope one day we all get to meet, and record live. It's just the four of us, and we're just having a good time.
We'll do it.
And maybe Kailami might just be that.
Kailami, let's do it. Quick Stop times DRS live. We'll do it Sunday night on after the race. We'll,
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair play. Well, if it's not Sunday night, it might have to be Tuesday, because I'm going hard. Let me tell you that right now. People think I'm this like demure old man on this podcast. Let me tell you now, I love a drink, and I'm going to be drinking a lot in South Africa when we come over.
And you'll be around beautiful women, That's also like
no comment. So I'm going to be completely professional when I come to South Africa. Business for the businessman, but going crazy. No, thank you guys for coming. We'll definitely do that live podcast when we come over. I can't wait to meet you guys. Can't wait to meet all of you when we come to South Africa. Where can guys find you on social media?
You can find us on a page at DRS Open _ on Twitter and on Instagram, but Instagram is a bit inactive at the moment. And you can find me at Wame _ on Twitter and Wame WAM.E on Instagram. But please don't follow me on Instagram. I'm a bit unhinged there. You can find me on Twitter. You see all my thoughts, and you will see my face definitely.
Wame's Instagram is basically Tandy's LinkedIn. Don't go there. Don't go there.
You know what's mad? She's had an influx of men looking at her LinkedIn.
I think it probably got worse after the.
Oh yeah,
when she
once she said don't go on it, she's had an influx of men going on. It's like forbidden apple. They're like, oh, what's over there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, guys are creepy.
hard.
Guys are very creepy.
You're
But
so
yeah,
greedy.
whatever.
You've got Twitter and Instagram. Everything's there. Why are you stalking on LinkedIn? But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
unfortunate. Langer, where can people find you?
Right now, no way. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
won't find me. You won't find me. But it's _ Langaman, LANGAMAN. I think Twitter and Instagram. But like, I'm on a sabbatical. I will probably reopen my socials. I don't know when the football season starts again.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
You won't be seeing Max prop on our timelines, which is a good thing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good.
no, listen.
Hopefully the car's better by then, so we won't have to.
Guys, it's not gonna happen. And
Okay, Langa, bye.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, no, well, God, we've got to move on to the next segment. So, guys, make sure you go follow these guys on Twitter. Guys, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
And that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really enjoyed those two conversations, and really lovely people and representative of South Africa as a country. Just lovely, lovely people, lovely country. It means a lot to me. I'm part South African as well as Zimbabwean, and it would mean so much to me and so much to so many others. And I hope that you guys enjoyed us sharing that piece of you. And if you have any comments, comment below. But if you've got this far, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, 5-star review on Spotify, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. But until next week, where we'll be reviewing the Silverstone Grand Prix and celebrating Tandy on her birthday, I bid you adieu. And make sure, no matter what life throws at you, keep it on the black stuff. Take care.